If you look at the way IBB traded today, right, we've had this massive spike and a reversal. It doesn't matter what the stock is, doesn't matter what the sector is. When that happens, that tells you that the buying interest is starting to wane out, particularly when it goes parabolic. So for me, that's a signal for me to take some profits rather than jump in on Monday.
Now what, Brian Kelly?
Retweet. I mean, you just stay away from it, right? I mean, I think there's a couple things out here. One, it did go parabolic. We've come back. It's probably going to take at least another month for this to resolve itself. There's another couple of other warning things. Another thing happened today. Look at the transports today. The rails got absolutely killed on some bad news out of Kansas City Southern. We'll talk about that later. And you also had the Chicago Fed National Activity Index come in showing the 3-month average for the economy is slowing. So there's a lot of things out there that say to me, now is not the time to be jumping in the U.S. stock market, particularly the high flyers like the biotech. Let it sit for a month.
But when I look across, Melissa, at some of these biotech names in the IBB, some of the biggest names, I still look at them and I look at a PE, with the exception of one, all underneath 20. Pipeline's phenomenal. So these are real stories. These aren't just a pipe dream. They have pipelines, but they also have real earnings. These are companies that I think you can still own. You don't have to chase them, but I think you can own all these names.
But I also don't think it's that uncommon or that big a deal for public and market investors when the private market gets, out of control the way it is. We have this notion out here in the Valley now of unicorns, which is this idea of billion-dollar private companies, which, if you think about it, are a brand new concept in the investment market. I mean, there are literally 100 of them now. And, they may all get public, but I think the more likely outcome is that, something will happen along the way and the public market will perhaps be less enthusiastic about many of these companies than the venture capitalists out here are. And, Silicon Valley is a very passionate place. And what's cool is there's a lot of really great work being done now, a lot of very exciting companies, but the fear is gone. Fear is, as we know in the public market, it's a really important component of any bull market. You need to climb the wall of worry.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Time Warner because to me, on a trailing 12-month basis, this is almost a 10% yield between your div and your buyback yield. It's a company that some of the parts looks cheap. It's a company that, to me, has a lot of drivers. Also, the HBO spin-out, the bundle spin-out begins in a couple weeks. This, to me, is a name, and this is a place where I think what Goldman Sachs is also saying is this may lead to buying opportunities. So Time Warner, you don't have to buy it tomorrow. The stock just recently hit an all-time high. I think a lot of these names will give you an opportunity, and you should make your list and check it twice.
No, I think the problem is when we go through these earnings announcements, we look for opportunities, and the opportunities aren't necessarily that a buyback is there. I think a buyback plays into it later, obviously. It can. And it can. So to your point, Karen, I'm not going to try to outsmart this thing. I'm not going to try to be cute into this. But, I mean, we've had great examples over the years where we've seen some of these companies that have been beat up for the wrong reasons, and then they get hit to the downside. Those are your opportunities. And then if they do follow up with some buybacks, now that's a little, icing on top of the cake, finally, which is what you want.
So you're